If the car wash workers can organize, any workers can organize. Si se puede. Si se puede.
If you refuse to leave, you'll be placed under arrest and charged.
In 2015, demonstrators, including union leaders and elected officials, blocked traffic and were arrested in front of a small car wash in Brooklyn.
It was an empowering moment. These workers were willing to stand out there to fight for their rights and for basic human dignity. And that's something that you take with you for the rest of your life. And you have the ability to make change by coming together. And when you do that, sometimes you find that you've got some friends on your side.
In the past 6 years, industries like car washes that employ low-skilled workers have been the target of lawsuits for alleged underpayment of wages.
And they both engaged in rampant labor law violations.
An ambitious unionization drive.
Let's hear it for that!
And a successful campaign to raise the minimum wage in New York to $15 per hour.
We're gonna lead the way, the nation's gonna watch us, and we're gonna raise up this state.
But here's what really happened. Instead of helping New York's low-wage workers, the movement is destroying their jobs. It's pushed some car washes to replace their employees with machines and others to close down. Increasingly, workers have no choice but to ply their trade out of illegal vans parked on the street, because the minimum wage has made it illegal for anyone to hire them at the going rate. At the same time, businesses that have chosen to automate are benefiting.
Thank you so much for $15 an hour, the best thing that could happen to us.
Because outlawing cheap labor makes it harder for new competitors to undercut them on price and service. This is an in-depth look at the real-world consequences when politicians interfere with a complex industry that they don't understand, enabled by media coverage that rarely questions their simplistic tale of exploited workers in need of protection.
Protect against who? Protect en contra de quién?
The car wash campaign serves as a model for what might be possible.
In 2012, a coalition of progressive groups led by the National Retail Workers Union launched an ambitious campaign to transform New York City's car wash industry.
The genesis of the campaign came out of a realization that you had an industry which was really just a breeding ground for terrible conditions. Hottest days of the year and the coldest days of the year, these workers are outside working 60, 70 hours a week and sometimes more, and not even getting paid the minimum wage. I think workers felt that they didn't have many choices and they really had no one that they could turn to. And we felt that we could have a real impact on the industry.
But the truth is that almost from day one, nothing about the car wash campaign has gone as planned. For starters, it turns out that most workers don't want help from organized labor. After 6 years, organizers have unionized 11 businesses, or about 4% of the city's car washes. 2 of them have since closed down, and the union withdrew at 3 more because of a lack of support from the workers. There are just 6 unionized shops remaining, or about 2% of the city's registered car washes.
Ellos solo vienen y cobran su cuota, pero yo no tengo un beneficio económico de la unión.
Irvin Parr is an immigrant from Guatemala who works at Main Street Car Wash in Queens, one of the city's 6 remaining unionized shops. Organizers have held 2 strikes at this location in the past few years, and the New York Times has covered allegations of worker mistreatment here. Now Main Street could become the 4th car wash where the workers pressured the union to withdraw.
De todos mis compañeros hay una mayoría que no quieren más la unión.
The union says that the workers are exploited and the union needs to protect them.
Protect against who? Protect en contra de quién? Si a mí no me gusta trabajar aquí, yo voy y busco trabajo en otro lado. Hay muchos lugares para trabajar donde se gana lo mismo. No se gana más, se gana lo mismo.
At this particular time, we represent the workers there, and we certainly hope that we'll be able to continue to do that.
With the unionization drive floundering, the movement's leaders shifted their focus to getting the city and state to mandate change.
It's law.
The most significant government intervention championed by the union was an increase in the minimum wage to $15 per hour.
New York is the progressive capital of the nation. We fight for fairness. We fight for justice.
This move is upending the industry, but not in the way activists intended.
We've heard over the years from employers repeatedly that any time that we've made changes within the industry that either they'd all automate or the industry would suffer massive shutdowns. We haven't seen that happen to date.
In reality, that's exactly what's happening. The $15 minimum wage is driving many New York car washes to replace men with machines, such as at this large operation in Queens that installed a new arch for hosing down vehicles, which will replace about 4 workers. Like many of the city's car washes, this one was designed at a time when manual labor costs less than installing and maintaining machinery.
Labor was cheap. Yeah, real cheap.
Amir Malki is a second-generation car wash builder. When he started in the industry in the 1980s, operators all over the city were actually dismantling machinery because rag, hose, and brush-wielding men did a better job for less.
Today, it's reversing. Labor is expensive, and we need the proper equipment to clean so we don't have to use extra men.
It's not just renovations. New fully automated car washes are opening up, such as this state-of-the-art outfit near JFK Airport, with electronic gates, a self-serve vacuum, and a single manager on site, making sure everything is running smoothly. Car wash owners are choosing to automate even though it entails substantial risk. Take Best Auto Spa in Brooklyn, one of the city's premier hand washes, drawing clients who care deeply about the appearance of their cars and are willing to pay more for the human touch. The $15 minimum wage means that this business model is simply no longer viable, so Best Auto Spa is transforming from the equivalent of an artisanal bistro to becoming just another fast food joint. 2 years ago, the owner installed $200,000 worth of equipment, which allowed him to lay off 8 workers. Now he's facing another policy change that would further increase his labor costs. Employers are currently allowed to attribute a portion of the tips earned by their workers towards meeting the minimum wage requirement. New York State is seriously considering a proposal to eliminate the so-called tip credit. If that happens come January, the owner of Vegas Auto Spa says he'll have no choice but to give all these employees a pink slip and go fully automated.
Then you have Wonder Bar, Church Avenue. You have new fully automated places opening up, like City Car Wash Express on Northern Boulevard in Staten Island. I could go on. What is your take on these examples, which I think do actually show a major trend towards automation?
I get it if you go into a car wash and an owner has said, I've automated because of what's going on here, that it makes you think that it's like, part of a much broader story. I'm not saying it isn't the case, I'm just saying that it's like that might not necessarily be the case.
It's true that not every car wash owner is willing to take on the risk and expense of automation. And there's another option. Exit the business and relinquish their land for more profitable uses, which has also been happening at many New York car washes. Several car washes have closed after their owners were sued for paying off the books and not complying with labor regulations.
We will continue to keep an eye on these businesses to ensure that they don't stray from the path of righteous business practices.
A lawsuit contributed to the closing of this car wash in Woodside, Queens, to this one in Harlem, and to this one in Upper Manhattan. At each of these locations, dozens of low-wage jobs disappeared.
Are workers really better off when the car wash that they work for closes down?
Yeah, I don't agree with your assessment that these car washes are closing as a result of wage and hour lawsuits. That might not necessarily be the case. That may be how it's being characterized to you.
Another unintended consequence is that for business owners who choose to stick it out and automate, the $15 minimum wage actually protects them from competition by making it harder for new car washes to open up.
Solely from being a businessman, the increase in the minimum wage makes my business so much easier. The best thing that could happen to me, and I think to the industry.
Jack Belinsky is the manager of a new car wash in Queens. It opened last year at the site of yet another labor-heavy operation that closed following a wage and hour lawsuit. The new owner converted it to a fully automated exterior-only car wash, meaning customers are left to vacuum the interiors of their own vehicles.
Because we used to do the same thing with 25 people. Now I'm doing it with 2.
By making cheap labor illegal, the $15 minimum wage made it possible for Belinsky to downgrade his service.
Before, if I go exterior and my competition says, he went exterior and I'm still free service, I'll take all his customers. That never gave me a chance to go exterior. Right now, everybody is forced to go exterior because of this crazy law and the minimum wage $15 an hour. Now everybody, it evened out the field.
The $15 minimum wage amounts to government prohibition of low-wage work, and yet just making something illegal won't stop able-bodied men with few alternatives from meeting a market demand for their services.
These workers have few options and little power. They live in the shadows.
The irony is that progressives have pushed car wash workers further into the shadows. Since legitimate car washes can no longer hire them, workers are going to the streets, where it's all cash, no taxes, no unions, no workers' comp, no insurance, and certainly no wage floors.
La economía no ha llevado a esta situación a tener que trabajar lavando carros en la calle.
Fausto, who asked to be identified by his first name only, is an illegal car wash worker. He's part of a 3-man operation washing cars on the curb out of a van for about $15 a pop.
Los clientes nos prefieren a nosotros por esa situación, porque vienen con una manchita de la ave, de lo que sea, nosotros la quitamos. La máquina le pasa, si no la quitó, por ahí mismo tú te vas.
He's lived in the U.S. for 19 years and still sends a portion of his earnings back to the Dominican Republic to help support his wife and children.
Semanal o cada 15 días mando $100 para la comida y de algunos gastos más. Le estoy cubriendo la universidad desde aquí.
How the hell can I compete? Because of these guys, they're paying cash. You understand? They're not paying the proper taxes, FICA, uninsured, but I am.
And now the established car washes, left with no choice but to install expensive machines and plaster their walls with operating licenses, are the ones clamoring for the government to enforce the minimum wage.
We worry for the workers, look at the rules that we make. But if those rules are not enforced, those laws are toothless. They only destroy the good guy that tries to follow of all the rules and has to compete with the bad guy that breaks all the rules.
No tenía otra opción ya de trabajar, otra opción de trabajar que es la más que uno puede encontrar más fácil.
Some of these guys working out of these vans don't have other employment options. Are you sure that it would be in their best interest to shut them down?
Yeah, I do, and I'm going to be very blunt about that. You can always make the argument that you can allow some people to skirt the law, some people to skirt regulations that are meant to protect workers in an effort to give people work opportunities. That's a devil's bargain.
Or maybe the real devil's bargain is championing a set of policies that sound good at a rally, but that in the real world jeopardize the livelihoods of the working poor. Which brings us back to Vegas Auto Spa, the Brooklyn car wash that progressive activists made an example of back in 2015. Shortly after the car wash unionized, the owner started planning his exit strategy. 2 years later, he found a buyer who kept it running for 1 more year. Today, Vegas Auto Spa is shuttered, and the ripple effects of the entire movement have been to destabilize an industry, pushing the men and women who worked in it even deeper into the shadows.